story time about how I accidentally waterboarded myself at the gym. I was feeling dizzy before a workout as I was a bit dehydrated. Usually I go to McDonald's and grab a large unsweet iced tea for the gym. It's better than coffee, it wakes me up for the workout, and it's only $1, but I hadn't done that on this day. That was my first screw up. In my slight lightheadedness, I decided to get some water from the fountain in the middle of the workout. Screw up number 2. After an hour on the treadmill, my throat starts to stick a little. I had my mask on and was doing a slow jog about 7 miles per hour, just enough for me to breathe through the mask and didn't have to remove it once during the hour spent on the machine. I hop off the treadmill and the first feeling I get is a rush of blood running away from my brain. It only lasted a second, but anyone getting up too fast from sitting or squatting a long time will know the feeling. It's similar to the dizzy feeling when being drunk. This was a good time for that drink, but because of COVID, the fountains were turned off and you're supposed to bring your own water. Oops. Okay, whatever, I'll power through this. I was doing lightweights that day anyway. It'll be fine. Screw up number 3. At the end, my shirt was very sweaty and I'm feeling very dizzy and lightheaded, but it passes. Anyone who's had that feeling would know it's actually a little euphoric, and a great end is a shower. This is also where I should point out that I'm in terrible COVID condition. My belly is huge and my mother pointed out that I looked pregnant when I went to open the fridge door without my shirt on. In my dehydration, I'm not drunk dizzy, but impaired enough to forget to take off my shirt and mask as I take my towel with me to the shower. There's no one else taking a shower as it was a pretty early workout, so I head to my usual stall by habit, which is close to the entrance. I turn on the shower and let the water hit my chest. The feeling is amazing. I'm still in my sweaty shirt and decide to take it off, with my mask still on. The shirt sticks to my skin and rotund belly, making it very hard to remove. Now both my arms are up and the shirt is stuck to my face with the mask, and the water is now filtering through the shirt and mask, blocking my nostrils. This is where I find out how horrible waterboarding is. However, that's not even the worst part. The wet mask and shirt make it instantly extremely hard to breathe as the nostrils are blocked. Instinct says to use my mouth, which is also blocked, and I start to hyperventilate, which sends water into the lungs and causes me to cough and panic. I take a few steps back with my arms still up and spin around to get away from the water. 2 very strong arms lift up my shirt and my mask with it, whereupon I'm confronted with 2 ebony pecs even the Rock would be envious of. Just below these godly pecs are abs of Hercules that puts my pear-shaped physique to shame. That's when the water decides to leave my lungs and I start hacking. Connected to this torso of discipline and genes of envy, I'm hacking spit onto the biggest weeby I've ever seen on this side of corn. The glorious footlong is inches from my face where previously only a Subway sandwich had been. The manliest of hands pat my back like a baby being burped. Through tears and embarrassment, we both realize there's a third person that just walked in. Me bent over coughing in the heat from this giant schlong caressing my face. Said person turns on his heels and nopes out. I utter some thanks to my savior and we both decide it's best not to talk about it and finish our showers. Mine was the shortest shower I'd ever had. I rushed to dress and possibly found the third person to hopefully explain, but he was gone by then. On my way out, the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whose Johnson was inches away from my face, was done with his shower. He has a look of don't say anything, but I spend a few minutes with him thanking him as he's getting dried and dressed. He seems cool with it, I think, but I haven't been back in weeks.
Hey, I'm Camille, and this story is about my crazy mother. She had a new boyfriend every week, and one time she even dated her own cousin. It was so gross, but everything changed when she met Michael. He was a decent guy with a stable job, no drug problems, and no former arrests by the police. So when they got married, I was truly happy for them. But of course, my mom had to ruin everything, because one day, my boyfriend and I came home late. We were completely wasted, and while I went to bed, he fell asleep on the couch. The next morning, he sent me a really disturbed message, saying that my mom had made out with him last night while it was dark. He said he didn't notice it was my mom until it was too late, and they, you know what. Well, this wasn't the first time she had tried to destroy my life. Back when I was 14, I asked her to stop wearing miniskirts, because it was embarrassing. But the next day, she stormed into my school class wearing the shortest miniskirt I'd ever seen and screamed, "My daughter Camille thinks I'm an embarrassment. She doesn't want her mother to dress like a." Afterwards, I was made fun of for years, but this time she had slept with my boyfriend and taken things too far. I knew I had to take my revenge. So the next morning, I came very close to her husband Michael and said, "Stepdaddy, can you make me some breakfast?" I even fluttered my eyes at him, but he just ignored it. In the end, I showed him my boyfriend's SMS and told him that his wife had slept with my boyfriend. And for the first time, I saw him getting angry. I mean, no wonder. He had treated my mom with so much respect, and in return, she had cheated on him with a 20-year-old boy. I knew he deserved someone better, and that person was me. I'm not allowed to talk about the details here on YouTube, but let's just say that for the next few months, me and my stepdad Michael had a very close relationship. And somehow, I got pregnant. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep the baby. But then I realized that having a kid with my mom's husband was the ultimate revenge on her. And Michael was a good catch anyway, so I had nothing to lose. But when I told her I was pregnant without knowing who the father was, she started laughing and said she had always known I would end up as a single mother. I got so mad. I was about to tell her the truth, but I knew it wasn't the right moment. And for the next few months, Michael took great care of me, even though my mom didn't like it. She said, "Michael, stop cooking her meals. She has to learn to be a single mom because that's what she is." It went on like this until I gave birth. My mom was right next to me, making one sarcastic comment after the other, like, "Oh, this baby will be a problem child. It's already causing lots of trouble." At some point, I had enough and couldn't take it anymore. I screamed, "Michael got me pregnant. Your stupid husband got me pregnant. It's his child, you stupid." I'll never forget the look on her face. At first, she was just quiet. She wasn't sure if I was making a joke or not, but when she realized I wasn't joking, she went berserk, and it took 3 doctors to keep her away from me. Meanwhile, I was laughing so hard I almost fell out of bed. I knew I had finally gotten my revenge. And after I'd given birth, Michael came inside to take a look at his daughter. I immediately knew he would be a great father. But then I noticed that he had a big bruise on his face. I asked what happened, and he said my mom had attacked him in the hospital lobby, screaming, "You got my daughter pregnant! You pig! I'll divorce you, you dirty piece of shit!" And afterwards, the police had to arrest her. We both started laughing, even though we knew this wasn't over yet. The next day, my stepdad went to work, but when he stepped out of his car, my mom drove her car right into him. Luckily, she missed him. Now she's serving a 5-year prison sentence for attempted murder. Of course, I feel bad for her. That's also why I decided to visit her in prison to apologize. But when she saw me, she went nuclear again, hitting against the window and screaming like a psycho. It was so scary, but I couldn't resist laughing again. Please understand that she had always been a terrible mom. When I was 9 and having summer vacation, she disappeared for 2 weeks. I was petrified and not sure if she was still alive, so I just hid inside my wardrobe all day and night. When she finally came back, I ran up to her to take her into my arms, but she just pushed me away and told me to go to sleep. To be fair, though, there were some funny moments. One time, she broke into our neighbor's garage and stole his lawnmower. And 1 week later, she did a garage sale and sold the same lawnmower she had stolen back to its previous owner for $100. Another time, I told her that my teacher was picking on me, and the next day, she stormed into my school and physically attacked that teacher. That's probably not the best way to show your love, but it still counts. Anyway, thank you for listening to my story, and please
do not get mad at me for this. So, I may or may not have accidentally bought a stolen car. Yup, I bought a stolen car! Stolen. S-T-O-L-E-N. As most of you guys remember, a few months ago I got my car taken away. And since I can't go a day without driving around and getting Starbucks, I decided the same day that I got my car taken away to go buy another car. So that same day, I had my boyfriend pick me up, went to the ATM, pulled out $800, found a car on Facebook Marketplace for $800, and bought a car. Now, when we bought the car, there was a few red flags. And one of those main red flags being that the VIN number on the car did not match the car. And if you don't know what a VIN number is, it basically is what identifies your car. Like, if you have a Honda Civic, the VIN number on your car will show that it's a Honda Civic. Like an identification. Well, like I said, they told us that the VIN number didn't match the car we're buying. But, you know, little old me didn't care, because I need a car now. So we gave him the $800 and drove away. So I drove that car for about a week or two. I liked it. It was a nice car. But then my dad gave me back the car he took away. And I didn't need the car that I bought anymore. So I'm like, oh, I'll sell it. Well, we have somebody on Facebook Marketplace hit us up and say that they want to buy my car. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I meet up with them at 12 o'clock at night. Yeah, a little suspicious. And he's taking a look at my car, and he like looks down and looks up and looks down and looks up. And he's like, ma'am, your car is stolen. And I'm like, it's not stolen. I would have been stopped by the cops already. Are you stupid? And he's like, ma'am, your car is stolen. All of the VIN numbers on your car have been scratched off, and the one VIN number that's left doesn't even match your car. And if you're confused, yeah, if your VIN numbers are scratched off and the only one on there doesn't match your car, you got a stolen car. So I start freaking out and crying, and I'm like, no, I have a stolen car. Don't take me to jail. I don't want to go to jail. The guy's like, yeah, I don't want to buy this car anymore. And I'm like, no, you literally have to buy it. If my dad finds out that I bought a stolen car, I'm going to be in so much trouble. So it's a little bit of negotiating. I persuaded him into buying a stolen car for a very, very cheap price. And he also said that he knows a guy who can fix the situation. So that's how I bought a stolen car. So don't use Facebook Marketplace, because if that dude hadn't been so generous to take a stolen car off of my hands, I might be in jail right now. I might be in handcuffs right now. Who knows? Also, don't hate me. I was stupid. I didn't even know stolen cars could be sold on Facebook Marketplace. But now you know. This girl is trying to fight me because guess what? Take a guess. Wild guess. Because my dad has a job. Yeah! So basically, there's this girl that hasn't liked me for a really long time. And I never knew why. I never knew why we had beef. I never knew why we had drama. Because I never had an issue with her. I never had drama with her. Everybody was telling me how much she hated me and, like, wanted to fight me. So once I found out that she, like, wanted to fight me, I blocked her on everything because I don't need the drama, honey. I don't even know ya, honey. So I block her and I move on with my life. About a week later, I have, like, 30 people sending me screenshots of what she posted on her Snapchat story. And it's a screenshot that I can't show because it will expose who I'm talking about, saying how much she wants to fight me and how I deserve everything bad coming to me in life, blah, blah, blah. And she posted this on her public Snapchat story. Public. Like where anybody could see it. And she used my full name in it too, just so that people knew that she was talking about me. So later that night, I found out her phone number and I text her. And I'm like, hey girl, so I saw what you posted. What's the issue? Cause like, I don't know you, I don't talk to you, and I've never seen you in my life. This girl proceeds to tell me how I don't deserve anything I'm getting in life and how I'm a horrible person because my dad bought my car and because my dad buys my clothes and my food, and basically just saying how she doesn't like me because my dad provides for me and saying how daddy's money I am. So I'm like, girl, what? And I respond and I'm like, I hope you know, like, my dad is working 24/7. Like, he works for his money. I don't know why you're so mad about it. And like, boo-hoo, my dad provides for his family. Like, why does that make you angry? And then she's like, well, my dad doesn't have a job that good. My dad doesn't bring in that much money. And just starts ranting about how her dad doesn't make as much money and her family, like, and then she asks me for my address, to which I respond in blocking her. Listen, I'm all for a good rustle tussle, but not because of something that stupid. Get a grip on yourself, honey!
I ghosted my boyfriend of 5 years. I came over to his house one morning to surprise him with breakfast and a video game he wanted, only to find him naked, asleep, and with his ex curled up in his arms. He didn't hear me come in, so I closed his bedroom door, and left his breakfast and game on the kitchen counter along with my key to his house. I went to my car, deactivated my Facebook, and blocked him on all other forms of social media. I then called my phone provider to change my number before driving off. I texted family members and close friends that we were no longer together and to block him on social media, as well. I didn't tell them why. I was in a position to end the lease of my apartment early, and I started a new job in a different city later that week. I completely removed myself from him and didn't offer a shred of explanation or opportunity for dialogue. I disappeared from his life after his betrayal, and I think it'll not only help me to focus on myself without his presence, but I think completely shutting myself off from him will hurt worse than anything when he thinks on how good he had it with me these last 5 years. When I was in 9th and 10th grade, there was a girl at our school with cancer. She was totally bald and never wore a wig. Everyone was always extra nice to her, as you could imagine. I only had one class with her where we sat in desk clumps of 2, so I can't say how she acted with other people, but she was a total bitch to me. Every time I tried to talk to her and be friendly, she would find a way to laugh at me and be rude, and whenever I answered a question in class, she would be quick to tell me how stupid I sounded. I could go on about her, but in short, this girl made me dread my 6th period every day, and I knew I could never say anything back to her or complain because she would play her cancer card and make me the bad guy despite whatever she did. She even smirked sometimes when she said particularly mean things, like she knew I couldn't do anything. Toward the end of 10th grade, I found the seat next to me empty, and our teacher announced she needed to stay at the hospital full-time because of her deteriorating health. I could barely contain my joy.
I woke up, all of my group chats of my followers had changed their names to RIP this person, and basically it was that this girl had passed away from a brain tumor. Immediately my heart was like broken, and she's a huge supporter, and also she's just a sweet child, and as a person that's a sad thing to hear. But then as I started asking the group chats details about it, I was like, how did you guys find out so quickly? I just talked to her like yesterday, and they were like, her mom DM'd us from her account, and that to me felt weird, because I was like, well, first of all, did her mom know her password? Second of all, if this woman's daughter just passed away, is the first thing she's gonna do is get on Twitter and talk to a bunch of people she doesn't know? Something about this doesn't feel right to me. So then I opened up my DMs, and I got a DM from her later that day from her mother, who was saying, this is such and such's mother. As you may have heard, such and such passed away from brain tumor. And, we're really sad and really heartbroken, but we just want to let you know that she talked about you a lot and she really cared about you and you made a big difference in her life. And at this moment, I'm like, wow, this is devastating. But then the more I read it, the more I'm like, there's a lot of typos in here. This seems like a weird thing that a mother wouldn't say. Because it ended with like, even in her final days, all she could talk about is how badly she wanted you to notice her. And now it's turning into like a guilt trip of, oh, she was dying and I didn't pay attention to her. I didn't answer her DMs enough. I didn't like her tweets enough. And I just found it very odd that a mother would DM a YouTuber the day after her daughter passes away and say all she wanted was to be noticed by you. And so through not very much deductive reasoning, I find out that this is this girl and she's pretending to be dead so that I will finally notice her, even though we had plenty of conversations in the past. And it was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. She's old enough to know better. It was deceitful. She had so many people upset about her, crying about it. Group chats literally flooded with people saying how upset they were. And all of this for what? Because I wasn't DMing you enough? So I finally got her to admit to me that it was her.
But it all starts 2 years ago. Me and some friends are driving down the street listening to music. I wasn't driving. I was in the passenger seat up front, just hanging out, listening to music. It was cool. We didn't really have a plan. We were just listening to music, driving around, trying to figure out what to do. And everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, we're driving, and this guy walks out right in front of our car in the middle of the street. And my friend slams on his brakes. Thank fuck we weren't going any faster, because if we were going any faster, my friend probably would have hit this guy with his car. But luckily that didn't happen. Everyone was okay, just kind of scary. And this guy didn't have a crosswalk. He didn't have the okay to cross. He was literally crossing in the middle of a pretty busy street. And it confused the fuck out of me because there was literally a crosswalk just like a little bit more down the road. Like he could have just kept walking a little bit on the sidewalk and then used the crosswalk and, avoided this. But he decided to cross in the middle of traffic. So anyway, my friend slams his brakes, we stop, and I noticed that the guy is unfazed. Like he didn't even look at us, made no eye contact. But he stopped. He just stopped moving. He was just standing in front of our car. Just super still, just standing in front of our car. Not looking at us. And my friend rolls his window down and he's like, dude, what the fuck? I could have hit you, man. Like, you could have gotten hurt. Why aren't you using the crosswalk? And my friends in the backseat are like, dude, this is fucking weird. Like, what's going on with this guy? Because he didn't seem like he had anything wrong with him at first. But after he stopped walking and just stood still in front of our car and didn't make eye contact or look our way at all after almost, getting hit by a fucking car, he just stood there and had the most blank look in his eyes. It was so weird. So my friend kept trying to talk to him. He's like, hey man, can you hear me? Are you okay? Hello? And my friend gets out of the car and I'm like, yo, are you sure this is a good idea? And he's like, yeah man, hold on. And he goes over in front of the guy and he's waving his hands, trying to snap this guy out of whatever daydream he's in. He's like, hey, can you hear me? Hello, man, you there? You good? And of course, cars start to come behind us and they're beeping and shit and they're not having it. They're angry. And my friend's just ignoring them, trying to help this guy. And he just wasn't responding. It was so weird. I was actually nervous. I was like, what the fuck happened? Did we just put this guy in shock or something? We were so confused because obviously we didn't hurt him, but that is really scary. But anyway, my friend keeps trying to make contact with him. He's like, hey, can you hear me? Are you good? Do you need me to call someone? And then I open my door because I'm like, what the fuck? This guy might actually be in trouble. And I open my door and all of a sudden the guy turns around and he looks at me. And I was like, okay, so he is there. He's not completely out of reality. And he just gives me this blank look. And I was like, hey man, are you okay? And he looks back at my friend, and he just lets out the most scary, terrifying fucking scream, just ever. He starts screaming, we were hurting him or something. He was screaming so loud. And my friend's like, yo, are you okay? Are you okay? And he just goes, get the fuck away from me. And he runs and then jumps onto my friend's hood and then rolls away from where he was going towards. So he basically ran back to where he was before he crossed and then ran into a parking lot. And I was like, what the fuck? And my friend's like, dude, what the hell even was that? I'm like, I don't know, but let's get back in the car. So we get back in the car, and I was like, should we follow this guy and make sure he's safe? Because clearly something's going on with him. Maybe we should call the cops or something. And my friend's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna. I'm gonna try and talk to him one last time. I was like, dude, I don't know if that's a good idea. And he's like, well, I just want to see if he's okay. So we drive over to the parking lot, and we kind of follow this guy from a safe distance, and he ends up walking out of the parking lot to a neighborhood road nearby. And we're just kind of slowly driving behind him. And my friend rolls the window down, and he looks out his window and just yells at the guy. He goes, hey, man, are you okay? I just want to make sure you're okay. And the guy turns around, and I shit you not, he turns around, crouches down, almost knees touching the road, and just goes, and then fucking takes off running in the other direction. And that's when I was like, oh, fuck this. Nah, fuck this, man. No fucking way. No way this dude really just kneeled down and fucking hissed at us like a goddamn cat and ran away. So my friend starts driving again and following him. And after about 2 minutes of following him, we see him run from the street onto a lawn and then up to the porch of a house, and he just opens the front door and runs inside and slams it. And we were like, dude, is that even his house? Like, did this fucking guy just really run into some random house? So my friend pulls over on the side of the road and he goes, Austin, go knock on the door and see if that's his house. And I was like, dude, fuck no. He just hissed at me like a fucking animal. I don't want to see if that's his house. What if it is his house and he fucking hits me over the head with a brick and drags me inside and eats me? I don't want to fucking do that. He's just like, dude, come on. Just take one for the fucking team. Go knock on the door. And I was like, no, absolutely fucking not. That dude wants nothing to do with us, and I don't want to go knock on his front door. So after arguing for like 2 minutes, so I get out of the car. I like very, very hesitantly walk up to the fucking door. I knock on the door, and I notice the blinds in the window next to the door open really quick. And he like looks at me, and he closes them really quick. And I was like, oh, what the fuck, dude? This is terrifying. Like, he could just come out at any minute and just beat my ass. So I was just standing there, and then all of a sudden I hear the door unlock. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. Here we go. This is it. And he opens the door just a crack, and he goes, I'm going to go to bed now. I was like, okay, have a good sleep. And he goes, you too. And he just shuts the door. And I was, that is like top 5 creepiest fucking things I've ever seen. So I fucking turn around real quick, walk back to the car. So I get in the fucking car, and all my friends are like, what do you say, man? What do you say? I was like, I don't know. He just said, like, who's there? And I answered his question. And then I asked if he was okay, and then if he needed me to call anybody, and he said no. And I asked if it was his house, and he said yeah, and that he was going to go to sleep. And my friends are just like, that's so fucking weird. Like, he wasn't even talking just a few minutes ago. And I was like, yeah, well, let's stop bothering him and go home. And my friend's like, I guess it really is his house. Maybe he's just on some sort of drug. And I was like, that's probably my best guess. Either that or, like, I don't know. Maybe he's just going through some shit. And my friends are all like, yeah, maybe. And we pretty much just ended up driving home after that. And I never saw him again. I do think that was his house because he ran in there and all the lights were already on. And I only saw one car there, which could have been his. And when he answered the door, he seemed a lot more comfortable. So my best guess is he was either...
Imagine you're 11 years old and walking to the bus stop in the morning when you're suddenly abducted. For the next 18 years, you're held captive by your abductors and hope that one day you'll be free. This was the reality for a young girl named JC Lee Dugard. She was taken just outside of her home in South Lake Tahoe, California on the morning of June 10th, 1991. A man approached her in his car as she crossed the street and asked for directions. Before she could even register his question, he uses a taser on her and she's paralyzed. That's when he grabs her and throws her in his car. JC's stepfather actually saw the kidnapping happen from their garage window and attempted to catch up to the car on his bicycle but was outrun. He immediately called the authorities who, with the help of the FBI, dogs, aircrafts, and hundreds of people, searched for JC, but to no avail. No one could find her and all the leads went cold. She was locked in a makeshift recording studio by convicted rapist and his wife, Philip and Nancy Garrido, in their backyard. On the first night, her abductor showers with her and handcuffs her. That night, she cries herself to sleep. Over the next 18 years, JC is completely dependent on him for every basic human need. They renamed her Alyssa, and she was repeatedly abused by Philip over the years. He would take substances and stay up for nights on end, forcing JC to fulfill his fantasies. Over time, he stops handcuffing her and starts to trust her more. When JC's 13, Philip Garrido is actually arrested by police for possession of substances and is locked up for a month. When he returns, he has an ankle monitor. Still, no one knows that he's holding JC. A year later, JC is 14 and has gained weight. She feels uncomfortable and is soon told by the Garridos that she's pregnant. She gave birth to her first daughter at the age of 14 and her second daughter at the age of 17. Both of her daughters are forced to live with her in confinement as she does her best to raise and take care of them. During this time, she writes in a journal about her feelings and wondered if her family members were ever searching for her.
JC over time became extremely depressed living in captivity and grew to cherish any human interaction, even if it was from her kidnappers. She didn't know how to escape, and after years of abuse and lies, she didn't know if she even had a family to go back to if she managed to escape. Eventually, JC's children were old enough and enrolled in school. Philip and Nancy would allow JC to attend the girls' orientation on campus, but no one ever recognized her or said anything to her. JC was too scared to speak up because she was conditioned to think that the outside world was a scary place and her only safety was with Philip and Nancy. Sometimes JC was allowed to go on shopping trips with Nancy or to the nail salon. She was taught to not look people in the eye and to keep to herself. At one point, Philip takes Nancy and JC to his parole agent's office to help him explain the projects he had been working on so the agent would stop harassing him. JC is questioned for 20 minutes and tells the officer her name is Alyssa and everything else she's been conditioned to say all this time. Then she goes and sits and waits with Nancy, and Nancy and JC are waiting for Philip to come out of the office, but that never happens. Instead, 2 officers come out, the one who questioned JC along with a partner. After some back and forth about who JC and her children really are, another officer joins and tells them that Philip confessed to kidnapping her years ago. For the first time in 18 years, someone asked her what her real name is and when she was kidnapped. JC was so terrified of saying her own name out loud, she had to write it down. She was quickly reunited with her daughters and recounted her story for the police. She's finally reunited with her family, who never gave up on looking for her and never thought for a second that she wasn't alive. Philip was sentenced to 431 years to life without the possibility of parole, and Nancy was sentenced to 36 years to life. JC has come out with 2 books. In the first book, she talks about everything she went through while being held in captivity. And in the second book, she talks about living life and everything she's experienced for the first time since being free in 18 years.
So, do you guys believe in the existence of mermaids? Since we were kids in school, we were always taught about dinosaurs, and this seems like common sense to us because we were able to find skeletal remains. But if someone had just told me about these without the actual evidence behind them, I would have thought you were just describing some mythical creature. Like, look at this. Does this look real to you? But what about the findings of the remains of mermaids? And all of the sightings. Mermaid sightings and stories date back to 30,000 years ago. So many people from across the world, from across multiple cultures, have the same descriptions and similar stories. So how did this happen before we were even connected through the internet? Here are cave paintings from 7,000 years ago depicting what looks to be humans and mermaids fighting. Here's a skeleton that was found in Bulgaria. Here's a sighting from Nashville and another sighting in Vietnam. I don't understand how people can believe in aliens but totally write off mermaids as non-existent. While we've only explored 5% of the ocean and 4% of space, there's been several unexplainable underwater civilizations. Weapons such as spears that have been found under the ocean. Are these just from sunken ships, or could it possibly be from mermaids? I remember sitting down in 2011 so excited about the documentary that was coming out about mermaids. Animal Planet was really building us up for some actual evidence. And then by the end, we just see this and realize it's fake. I was so disappointed, but it also made me think on how a mermaid would even exist. Well, one theory is called the aquatic ape theory. It's theorized that once we split off from apes in evolution, some of us close enough to them so that you can see their true form. Usually they look frightening like this and have really long, sharp teeth. And this is when they kidnap you and keep you forever. And apparently a lot of people in the Caribbean area have experiences of being abducted by mermaids. I was watching this girl's video about how to make a deal properly with a mermaid. And apparently if you want something like to be healed or to be wealthy, usually a mermaid will want something in return. It can be something as simple as salt all the way up to a child or a relative. Mermaids apparently have the ability to keep you breathing underwater. So it's not that they're drowning the person you give them, it's just that they're holding them hostage underwater. But if they're feeling nice, they'll let you see them once a year. So has someone ever caught a real mermaid? Well, apparently the closest thing that we've had to a real sighting of the mermaid is at P.T. Barnum's world-famous exhibition. You know, the guy that The Greatest Showman is based off of? Well, in 1842, he had a specimen of a Fiji mermaid that he showcased. And later on, he ended up admitting that this was a mix of a dry carcass from an ape and a bottom of a large dried fish that came from a Japanese artifact. But later on, an actual mermaid was sighted in the Indian Ocean, and he paid a lot of money for it. There are posters everywhere advertising it, and he could not wait to show it to people. But on July 13th of 1865, his museum in Manhattan mysteriously burned down, and his mermaid disappeared. In 2010, when people were cleaning up Barnum's relics for his 200th birthday, they found an old black and white photo of the mermaid. And apparently this is the closest example that we have to a real mermaid. If you guys want to see even more sightings of mermaids, go to my Instagram.
Alright. Story time. So, it's day 2 of my kids being back at school, and guess who got a phone call already? Me. Yep, that's right. Riley's teacher called me, and it wasn't even 12 o'clock in the afternoon. My kid's been at school for like 3 hours, and I'm already getting a call from the teacher of her saying that Riley did something pretty messed up. I wasn't shocked. I knew this phone call was coming. I knew it was coming for 5 years. I was just waiting for Riley to get in school, but I knew this phone call was coming. And if anyone's curious, yes, it's the same teacher that told me I should be careful when pulling out because I'm not good. It's not my forte and blah, 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 blah. So I said, teacher, how are you now? She said, not too bad. Say, good. What can I do you for? She said, well, I'm just calling about something Riley pulled today in class and I'm not too impressed. Okay. What did Riley do? She said, well, it was lunchtime and what I had done was put out 2 baskets, one full of apples, one full of treats that they could have when they finish their apples. So, okay, and? She said, well, I know how kids are, so I put a sign on the snacks, the candies, saying, take one, God is watching. They're a Catholic school, God is watching. Anyways, I'm not getting into it, but I said, okay. And she said, what your daughter did was decided to take the basket full of candy, put it on the other side of the room, take the sign saying take one, God's watching, put it on the apples, and then she made her own sign saying take as many as you'd like, God is watching the apples. Sir, are you there? I said, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, that's so terrible. I guess I'm gonna have to discipline her when she gets home. It's not the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Said, no, I didn't find it funny at all. Now I have 3 kids in this class hurting with tummy aches.